Welcome to the Cash Flow Project Podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Cash Flow Project. I'm your host, Steve Ferrios of Tri-City Equity Group. Today, excited, we have Ryan Barone on the show. Ryan is the CEO and the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder over at RentRedi. So they've created an innovative software solution, both a software and an app, to help streamline the process between landlords and tenants, or both. Right? It started off, it sounds like from a tenant perspective, and of course, if you're looking for solutions will overflow to multiple facets. So pretty excited to talk to Ryan. I know their company currently has over $4.5 billion currently in assets under management. So we're excited to hear, what Ryan's got for us today, and how the folks over at RentRedi are, helping find solutions to problems. So Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I know we're quite a few thousand miles away. I know Ryan's dealing with winter weather over in New York right now, so. Hopefully you're holding up well and staying healthy, right? I know that's kind of a challenge right now for everybody. But yeah, so for those of our listeners who might not be familiar with you and kind of your background, tell us a little bit about your story, how you got started your journey into real estate, into entrepreneurship. What led to you going down that route?
Yeah, absolutely. So it actually goes all the way back to when I was in college. I was going to school in New York City, Pace University, and I had gotten my first internship, which was exciting to move out of dorms and get an apartment for the whole year. And as I went and found apartments, not too difficultly, I quickly realized it was pretty hard to actually rent the apartment. The gathering of documents, W-2, letter of employment, bank statements, tax return, the whole 9 yards, ended up with me losing the apartment, which was not a great experience for me, and ultimately kicked me off on this path where I started talking to other friends and coworkers and realizing that it was a very common experience that people were having. And so initially, I was just building an app for myself and friends to make the application process easier for ourselves. And landlords quickly came back to me about this app, saying, "Hey, our side's just as bad, if not worse. And the issue's way bigger than just applications. Like you said, it tends to start from one point and grow from there." And it quickly grew into rent collection, maintenance, listings, lease signing, the whole 9 yards. So it's really become this totally end-to-end platform, but very much still to that core problem of just trying to make the renting experience easier from both the tenant perspective and the landlords. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I mean, just having been through the experience, of course, before, and I know you're in a market where it's can be incredibly competitive, right? And we're transitioning to that now too, right? It's the market kind of prices keep going up, right? We're going to have more and more of a kind of a larger renter base, right? I think this is going to be more and more problematic, right? It becomes increasingly competitive, especially specific markets. Kind of speaking of markets, is this something that works in all markets? Like, is this, this only works in New York City, right? Or New York in general? Or is this like, no, I've got properties in Texas or here in Hawaii. Can I make use of this?
Yeah. And that was a question for me going 5 or 6 years back too. It was initially for a New York City market, but we now today, fast forward, have landlords actively managing in all 50 states, Virgin Islands, Guam, also, Hawaii included in that. So it's really interesting because it isn't even just metropolitan versus rural or suburban areas. It really has grown to solve the pain points all across, and a lot of it being credit to the landlords and tenants that have been on the platform, because a big part of the way we've developed everything has been this constant feedback loop of them saying, this is my specific problem, in Texas or, in Hawaii or in these different areas that maybe I wasn't personally experiencing the problem, and then saying, okay, how do we solve that problem in that area as well?
No, yeah, that's super important, right? I mean, real estate kind of, as we know, is hyper local and things that you will be dealing with in certain areas. You may not necessarily be a problem somewhere else. So that's awesome that you even have that feedback too, right? Because then that helps you to develop a better product, helps you guys and your team. Okay, well, wow, okay, this is a solution we can apply across the board in the off chance it does come up, right? And now, it's almost like you're reading the landlord's and the tenant's mind, right? So, because they're both a part of the process. So
for sure.
What's some of the, the common pain points, or maybe the biggest pain points that you think that, you get as feedback, both on both sides of the coin, both from the landlord perspective and from the renter's perspective?
Yeah, I think the biggest pain point from the landlord perspective is that traditionally, if they weren't very, very large property management companies, they didn't have as easy of access to solutions. And so for a lot of landlords out there, they were from end to end in the process kind of stuck with pen and paper and spreadsheets. And so that trickled into things like collecting rent with checks, or not having necessarily the systems that they wanted to make it easier for themselves. And then on the tenant perspective, I think you see that trickle down of ultimately a difficult renting experience, and for no reason other than not necessarily having that access to it. And so once you're able to get access to that as a landlord, that makes it easier for you, and then ultimately create a better experience for your tenants. It's kind of a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you got happy tenants. If that starts off from the get-go, if it's a nice, smooth, easy experience, that tends to kind of carry over throughout their stay as your time on property, right? Like if it's clunky and it's all that kind of stuff from the get-go, that's, you don't typically want to start off on that wrong foot, right? So that's great. Now I know this is your baby, right? This is your co-founder. Tell us a little bit about that process, right? I mean, this is it's not $4.5 billion under management, assets under management. I mean, this is I'm sure it's more than that now too. I don't know, but in all 50 states, I mean, this is a sizable venture that you have at this point. I mean, how was that process? Tell me a little bit about how you got the the gumption to start up something that's nationwide. With that much movement, that much action going on. That's exciting to me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, I think just like you said, I mean, starting it up initially wasn't actually nationwide. It was starting it with a single pain point, a single problem, and then just making incremental improvements over years at this point now. And I think that's really been the angle that I've taken it from, in terms of building the product, building the scope in terms of geographically. The idea is truly just to start small, get feedback, continue to iterate on that. And one of the really nice things is, as you get more and more people using it, it becomes actually much easier to build something that's very helpful for everyone involved, because you have so much more feedback about, how should you be tailoring auto late fees, or considering certain states like Texas and Massachusetts that have max late fees you can charge, and saying, okay, can we let a landlord have some grace period in a fixed amount and a recurring amount, but make sure they don't hit their state's requirement of not going over that late fee cap. And so a lot of those things you may not see as a single person, myself wouldn't see as a single person working on it. But one of the beautiful parts of it is we get more and more people, we get more and more feedback, and it makes it much easier to then tailor the solution to everyone. Yeah.
I mean, no, that's awesome. Like I said, I think when you start with that end in mind, right, like you're just finding solutions, right, that's gonna carry. And that, I don't know, I feel like that comes across as that's appealing, right? Like that's a genuine effort to, like, no, I want to make your life better, right? Like I'm solving these problems, that makes life better, that makes life easier. Yeah. And you can gravitate, adoption will gravitate towards that. Right. So that's, that's great. So, I mean, do you see this as something as, and you've got investors and all this kind of stuff as well, like for your company, right? Is working domestic, I mean, obviously all 50 states, you got some territories, sounds like it's in there as well. Is this something that's, you see the US being the stopping point? Is international on the radar? Like what are we seeing RentRedi, Europe, or, something else, or is the focus primarily still here? No, US is good. We're going to make our product the best it can be here. And
yeah, I think in the short term, it's focused for the US, and just because of regulation differences in different countries. I think over time, certainly that'll become a bigger and bigger question. We have some landlords from different countries that reach out and ask, can you assist with managing properties in my country? And we actually keep a running list of everyone that asks and say, when we do roll it out, you can be kind of the first one to have access to it. So we do track that, but in the near term, just trying to make it as good as possible for the US and expand there when we can.
Sure. No, I mean, I could imagine that. I mean, just being where you're in New York City, right? Or you're based out of New York, very, very international location, right? And we see the same thing here in Hawaii, right? I mean, everywhere along the Pacific Rim. I mean, you just have, you have buyers here, you have investors here that are from different locations, just as I'm sure you see. So yeah, that was just something that was a curiosity for me. It's like, oh, okay, did this work for my, Japanese investors, right? Or Australian investors or whatever, so
someday.
He's like, yes, and I'm going to go there and I will talk to you. We will set it up personally, right? Very cool. Very cool. Well, I mean, is this, and that's kind of where a little bit more to my, my next question would be, is this the end of the road? Is just making RentRedi the best that it would be, like, let's say for you, right? I feel like a lot of people that get that have that entrepreneur itch, tend to kind of, all right, can be serial entrepreneurs and like, all right, well, look, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. Is there any other projects or anything else that you're working on, or you could see like in the future, hey, you know what, I'd love to do that, or start up, I don't know, some other company, maybe vertical integration or, anything along those lines?
There's a lot that we're doing within RentRedi. I don't think honestly much outside of that, but a big way that we've approached the problem is continually trying to add on pieces that solve particular pain points. Like rent collection is something we've had for a long time, but tenants came to us late 2 years ago or early last year and said to us, I'm paying my rent. It just basically goes off into the ether. Can you help me build my credit by paying rent on time? And so we built into the platform a way for them to report their rent to credit bureaus and build credit by paying rent on time, which became a great thing for them. Landlords were happy because they got their rent on time more often. So it was a win for both of them, but there are a lot of ways that we can continue to expand on that front, not just from the tenant perspective of assisting with that, but also from the landlord side, where around that same time, we had some landlords say, you help me handle maintenance on the platform, where tenants can take their phone and video the issue and send it in. But what if I don't have a maintenance person? What if I don't want to necessarily do it myself? And I also don't want to get a property manager. Can you make it feel a little bit closer to that? And so we partnered with a company that traditionally wouldn't service landlords that we focus on, which are anywhere from a single family home to 100 units is really our bread and butter. And so if you had under 72, this company just wouldn't work with you. And so we were basically able to get access to those services for our landlords, where now basically we route the maintenance request out. They will find a vendor, schedule it, mark it complete. The landlord gets all of the oversight of the maintenance side of things, but they aren't necessarily doing work. And so a big focus on the landlord side, not just for that maintenance specific example, but just in general, is continuing to try to build on these pieces that ultimately achieve high visibility or a lot of control for the landlord, but not necessarily a lot of work, minimizing the manual tasks and the work that you have to do, but still giving you all the oversight that you ultimately want to know that your property is doing well.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I do see that was going to be one of my questions to you as well is, hey, if I'm a mom and pop operator and I only have, a couple of units, does this work for me? Right. Because you called it. I mean, there's plenty of management companies. It's just, it doesn't make sense unless you have, or they won't even take you on unless you have, 150 units, couple hundred units or whatever. Right. So, so you're filling
and that was a big
space.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, a big focus for us too was making it that if you had even one single family home, it still made sense. We could make it easier for you. You didn't have to, like you said, have 150 unit plus to make it make sense.
Well, I mean, the awesome thing is like that too, right? Like you have all of this feedback to make your product as best as it can be from, nationwide property owners, tenants, all that kind of stuff, so that the mom and pop operator can receive that full benefit of like, no, you've got this massive knowledge base that you can tap into, we're going to provide it for you. I can give it to you in your hand, right? You know, so no, that's awesome. I'm excited. I mean, I'm so yeah, very cool, very cool. So kind of circling a little bit back to just kind of the entrepreneurship side. Like I said, that's a pretty big endeavor at this point that you've scaled to grow a sizable company. You know, what kind of advice do you have to, you know, budding entrepreneurs, maybe similar to yourself, or just kind of, okay, well, how do I do this? This sounds cool. You know, how do I get started? And, you know, is this really the avenue for me? Do you have some kind of best tips or some advice for, you know, those people?
Yeah, I think it's just that you said, how do they get started? And I think it is my best advice would probably be just to start. I know that there's, no matter what you're doing, whether it's, you know, technology, real estate, anything, any business you're considering creating. And I was the same way. I wanted to plan and have this perfect plan before I started doing it. And the reality is, I think more people ultimately don't accomplish their dreams or what they want to because they just don't go for them, rather than that they went for them and they didn't plan enough. And so I think it's better to just start with whatever plan you have or no plan. And I mean, maybe a little bit, but you really don't often need as much as you think you do. And you'll figure out a lot along the way. Getting that feedback, you'll often, I would imagine, have customers, and no matter what you're doing, if you talk to them, they'll give you feedback. You'll build your plan, or you can build your plan off of what they tell you. And it makes it much, much easier because you don't have to guess, which is nice. You know, in the early days, maybe to start the very first version, you have to do a little bit of that, or you can survey and talk to people. But once you actually start and you get some people in the door, it makes it much easier because they're real users using the product, giving you, you know, honest feedback about what they want, what they don't.
No, I actually think that's a huge, and I love the focus, because it sounds like your company is focused completely around being solution oriented. I mean, and we get compensated as business, you know, owners, entrepreneurs, like when we provide value, right? The marketplace dictates that hey, you know what? You're providing me value. I will compensate you for that. Right. If you're not, guess what? You're not going to stay around. So no, so I think that's awesome advice, because like that, you won't know necessarily what problems that need to be solved until you start. Right. So as you go along, you're going to, okay, well, we got to solve that problem. Oh, we got to solve that problem. And, you know, you continue to refine until you have a better product. So, that's great. I love that. So, yeah. So it's the same thing. It's like, don't time the market. It's time in the market. Right. So just get started. Get started
with it.
No, don't analysis paralysis to death, and, you know, never do anything, never build anything. So yeah, that's very cool. All right. Well, we'll transition a little bit now to kind of a section in our show that's a fire round. So, you know, just kind of quicker, you know, just answers, you know, just a few basic questions, and yeah, you ready?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. All right. What is the best book that you recommend other than Rich Dad Poor Dad? It can be on business, can be real estate, can be whatever you want.
Yeah, I would say The Lean Startup, and I think it applies to all businesses, even if it's not a startup.
Awesome. What is your superpower?
I would say working harder than anyone's willing to, and still having fun along the way.
That's a key. That is absolutely a key power. I will say that's I wouldn't think so, right? What's the biggest lesson that you've learned over your career?
I think we talked about it. Start now. Just get started, put everything you have into it, and don't be worried about it. Don't analysis paralysis.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. It's like I can't remember how many, I can tell you how many people we talk to, right? Investors. Oh, one day we'll do that. You got to go. Just start. All right. And then you talk to a lot of investors, right? Or a lot of, you know, landlords and whatnot. So again, you know, a lot of our listeners are investors themselves, or, you know, trying to work towards that way. You know, for somebody who's like a busy working professional, trying to get to financial freedom, you know, what kind of advice did you have for them?
Yeah, the way I look at it for financial freedom is you really need two things. You need time and you need money. And that's why real estate's so enticing, because it can create cash flow for you. And if managed properly, it shouldn't take up a ton of your time. But at the same time, on the pen and paper spreadsheet route of things, it can take up a ton of time. So my advice there would be to adopt some sort of technology that is available now that maybe hasn't been available in the past, in a lot of cases wasn't, that ultimately lets you get back to keeping most of the profit for yourself. You still have to have the money that you were desiring when you first got into real estate, but also have the time to go enjoy it with family or friends or however you want to spend that money. So really, I would say take advantage of the technology that's out there. Make life easier for you. Make it easier for your tenants.
It's like rent ready.
Honestly, I'd be happy if you use anything. I'll do my best to make sure it's the best one for you. But ultimately, I want people to be happy and for them to ultimately get what they started in real estate for, which you mentioned was the financial freedom side of things.
No, and I appreciate that. And I get your genuineness of wanting to provide the best product that you can and solve solutions. I do believe that. So I think that's great. Well, all right. Well, how, if our audience wants to learn a little bit more about you or, connect with you directly, I don't know, maybe be able to do that, but, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way to reach out and maybe talk more about your product or, learn a little bit more? Yeah. How can they get in touch with you?
So our site is rentredi.com. It's RENTREDI because we're a startup and we have to spell something wrong. And so you can live chat us there. You can call us from the phone number there. We love talking to people. So it's exciting, honestly, to have that initial phone call or chat with someone, hear some sort of issue, have them set up, and here a couple months later, a month later, have them be happy. So it's the most rewarding part of it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Sounds good. Well, make sure, if you guys are curious about that product, looking for some innovative solutions to make that the whole tenant landlord journey, that process smoother, definitely feel free to reach out to Ryan. We'll definitely make sure we link to your site down below in the show notes. So you can definitely check them out and reach out to them. All right, Ryan. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thanks again for, spending some of your morning with us. And I look forward to chatting with you a little bit more in the future and try to touch base with you.
Thank you again for having me, Steve. Pleasure being on.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ryan. Aloha. What a great show with Ryan. Great guy. Him and his company RentRedi just, focused on completely providing solutions for landlords, both large and small alike. So, great to have him on the show. Love that he, some of the gems that he shared with us is, and it seemed like there's just a huge focus on just solving problems, just jumping in whenever you're providing value like that and being able to solve problems. You can't help but to grow your business, to get great feedback from your clients. So that was a great takeaway from me. And also he suggested a couple of books or our book, Lean Startup. Again, being an entrepreneur, getting off the ground is a lot of times the hardest challenge. So the biggest challenge. So just get started. Don't delay. Don't have analysis paralysis. And we see that so common, right, in real estate investing. So make sure you guys are just getting started, or just jumping in. If you're just getting started, just make those first moves. Make some phone calls. Get out there, get into the field, find some deals. There's so many different ways. So many different avenues and a way for you to get started, both in business and in real estate investing. So, So if you guys are interested in investing with us, personally, on some of our multifamily deals, or just curious and you want to have a conversation, go to tricityequity.com. You can learn more both about our management team and how to get started with us, to connect with other like-minded investors. Join our Facebook group, Honolulu Multifamily, and more. And if you found value, of course, in this podcast, please subscribe. We'd love a review, both on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also leave comments on YouTube as well, or subscribe on our YouTube channel. If you know anybody who might resonate with today's message, of course, we'd love it if you share the episode with them. Again, we're all on that same journey to financial freedom and to finding a path out of that, 9 to 5, or even just setting up generational wealth. We got to get started. So, make sure that you're sharing the podcast and the show with them. And we're also super excited. Again, we're putting on our conference this year. We're getting closer and closer. It's in July. So July 21st through the 24th, the Hawaii Millionaire Mindset Conference, where we can give you the blueprint on how you can become financially successful, achieve financial freedom through real estate, through businesses. There's multiple different avenues, but get in touch with people who are doing it. And it's going to be a great opportunity for you to be able to do that. Come out and network. It's going to be an awesome time. So again, that's July 21st to the 24th this year, 2022, out in beautiful Ko Olina, here in Hawaii on Oahu. So if you're on the mainland and you're looking for an excuse to escape winter weather right now, or just the craziness of wherever you're at, come out to our conference, come check it out. And there's going to be tons of, like I said, great networking, and you'll meet so many great people. And your net worth is your network. So yeah, come out, go to the millionairemindsetblueprint.com to find out more. All right, guys, we're going to call it a wrap for this week. And we will see you soon. Aloha.